Eiji, a normal high school student, got betrayed by his girlfriend so hard that he was at the edge of the rooftop, ready to end the misery once and for all. However, there was something else planned for him. The manga starts with our main protagonist texting someone. Up closer, it seems like he was texting his girlfriend, Miyuki, who seemed to turn him down from something. Eiji writes her back with cheerful praises and wishes. It was not a normal occasion. Rather, it was their special birthday date that they both planned so hard for, and he can't believe that she even rejected him on such a day. As he sits there wondering why he even bothered getting up and readying himself, we hear the loud train track noise over and over again. We learn that Eiji mustered the courage to confess his love to his one and only childhood friend, and with perfect timing, they both decided to date each other last Christmas. Everything was going very smooth with them until recently, and things had been a little weird. Just one glance at her and anyone would know for a fact that they are not childhood friends, and the aura and presence she has is somewhat of an idol's, and that is why almost everyone in the school considers her to be the beauty queen. He himself finds himself too lucky to be able to date such a person, and he has been very respectful and patient, and they have gotten to the point that they haven't kissed each other yet. This time it was very different, as he himself knew that she would never dodge a date and time together, but today it is clear that she is acting and making excuses. Although he was ready, he decided to just go to the restaurant they both planned to visit. Eiji thought that it would have been a waste to return home, since he went all out on this date. He twirls through the horde of people and soon he came across the place they planned to watch a movie together. Eiji imagines how it would have been for the both of them, and this time he would surely push the gas and push their relationship forward. Eiji made sure to make her feel comfortable and never, ever pushed her to the point where he would be taking advantage of her. As he shakes off the thoughts that almost made him a different man, he goes inside the nearby street. There he heard entirely different sounds and music, and almost everywhere were couples, publicly embracing each other. The place that he ended up just near the location they were supposed to meet was a love hotel district. As he saw what was going on around, he blushes from embarrassment, and quickly realized that this is an entirely different thing from what they planned. His mind shifted to fantasies again, and he imagined how their pace of relationship could skyrocket, and they would finally visit a love hotel and go a step beyond. As he imagined her erotic face, and blushed even more, he was ready to leave the place. But there he heard a voice that he knew was of someone he knew. From the back, two couples were teasing each other, playing around with each other. And there, Miyuki was actually present in the love hotel district with a different man, holding him closer to her chest and having the best time of her life. As it seemed like they were in a deep and loving relationship, Eiji quickly called out to her with a weak and stuttering voice. Eiji was told by her that she would be working on something that her school gave her, and she would have to spend some more hours in the school. But in reality, she lied and went to the love hotel with a different man by her side, and was having the best time of her life. When he called out to her, all her laughs went away in an instant, and she went into a panic mode and started to stutter out his name. As he himself was left speechless, and started to huff for air. With perfectly timing, both asked each other what they were doing here. Eiji, in anger, grabbed her arm and pulled her near, and she ended up screaming that it hurts. In the next instant, the guy next to her smacks him very hard and knocks him down on the ground. As he looks up and questions what is going on, the guy next to her starts to spew how Eiji should keep his hands off of his girl. As he stutters from the pain and realization of something, the guy started to tell him how Miyuki actually dated him because he was her childhood friend and she felt bad to even think about rejecting him and breaking Eiji's heart. He adds that she herself said these things about how boring he really is, and how sweaty his palms were when they started to date each other and held hands for the first time. In total disbelief, Eiji's entire world came crumbling down, and the guy laughs how Miyuki said all these things while moaning in the bed with him, as they both embrace each other. As he heard this, the thin thread that he clung on snapped as well, and the pure girlfriend who he cherished more than anything and respected and trusted the most, was actually saying the most painful words about him, while embracing a different man. His poor eyes widen and he prayed to God that this all be just a dream. He starts to panic, and the guy started to continue and mention that if she still likes her nobody boyfriend that much, she can end her ties with him, and with a cold voice he tells her to either break up with him or break up with me. Immediately she starts to cry like a victim and beg him to stop and not end their relationship. She cries that she even went all the way with him, since she knew that he was the one for her. She even told him that she would die if she were to be separated. As he patted her head, Eiji was devastated to every extent. And the lowlife passed a big wide smirk, letting him know that he has his girlfriend wrapped around his finger. He pets her and tells her to scream out aloud what she thinks of him. There Miyuki starts to tell him that she thought of him as a boring, clingy stalker who pestered her more than anything, and she tells him in a cold voice that he was an abusive and horrible boyfriend. As she said this, poor Eiji just couldn't believe that this was the stop to his life with her, and the way she is handling and ending it made it something traumatizing, and she ends everything that they had together and warns him to stay away from her, and there is no way that he can talk to her in the school. That day, after those two splashed him like an insect, destroyed everything that he cherished and trusted, he returned back to his home. His mother and older brother greeted him with a bright smile and asked if he is hungry and would like to eat something since he ran away in a hurry and didn't even took a bite. Eiji tells his brother that he is okay and quietly went to his bed. He just lay there and kept thinking of the thing that he just went through and how it was so simple for the two of them to end and stomp on him. He even started to skip dinners, and every time he would close his tearing eyes, he would get nightmares of the both of them embracing each other while laughing at Eiji. Both of them would laugh and spew how he just wasn't enough for her status. And every time he would pray for these nightmares to end and beg to let him have some peace. Soon, poor Eiji came to the point that he started to fear falling asleep. After taking some time off, he went to the school again, and as he walked quietly, his friend surprises him from the back. There we see that Eiji was in a bad condition, as big black bags were under his eyes indicating that he wasn't able to sleep at all. As his friend asked how his love life is, he dodges the question. In front of him, he sees Miyuki casually walking and talking with her friends. He remembered how in the past she would always call out to him and would pursue him as they were kids. Mustering up the courage, he decided to call out to her, and just as he was able to reach her, she notices this and glances back at him and calls out his name. Miyuki's best friend quickly gets in front of her and tells him to stay away, telling him that he is a disgusting and low-life creep, as she threatens him and warns him how she would end his life in an instant. Eiji never even did anything, and he just stood there wondering what was the crime he was being punished over. After school, he was inside his blanket again, since that is the only time he feels like he is safe. He gets a notification, and once he checked it, unknown messages started to shower on him, telling him that he is disgusting and he should just end it all. In an instant, his entire feed was filled with painful and dark messages, all blaming him for being a pervert, creepy and abusive piece of trash that should just disappear. He starts to gasp for air, and the messages piled up one after the other. He quickly throws away his phone, and the notifications and vibration from his mobile went on all night long. The next day, he was shaken to the core and went to the school. Somewhat he was sure that the prank happened to him was done by Miyuki's best friend. He opens the door to his classroom, and inside no one bothered him, but as he sat on his chair, he started to hear all sorts of gossips about him, and how he was the worst, an enemy to women, a stalker, a predator. His entire classroom was against him, and they went on and on. He speaks up and tells them that he didn't do anything, and Miyuki's friend slams his desk and tells him to shut up. She starts to tell how he stalks the two celebrities of the school and how there were multiple people confirming that he would stalk Miyuki. It was clear that all hope was lost for him, and he was at a state where nothing was clear to him. As he ran off to eat his lunch on the rooftop, he ate it with dead and tired eyes, and his club also reminded him that there were no club activities since there was a strange rumor going on. All the classes that he once thought he could rely on were no longer there. He musters the courage to visit the club president and ask for his help, but as he was to open the door, from behind, every single person on the other side were agreeing how he was actually creepy and looked like a criminal from the very start. They start to fight how he recruited him by mistake, and how they should just kick him out. Hearing this, tears began flowing from his cheeks, and he was sure that he was fighting a fight where he was alone, and the number of enemies against him were endless. He goes to speak with his teacher who could help him, and as he went to her office, there Miyuki and her friend were already present, and shared how they were being followed by Eiji all this time and how they were scared. Miyuki herself agreed that everything is terrifying for her. Eiji immediately dashed off, knowing that he is fighting a losing battle that is going to swallow him in a black hole. And this would be the end of his high school life. To perfectly corner him, the bullies even started to threaten his parents, and warned him that if he were to snitch or call for help, they would visit his parents and settle the differences there. As he returned home, his mother was sure that he was hiding something too dark and asked if everything was okay with him. He stood there listening to their concerns and quietly walked away. Although he could ask for help, he knew that his parents should not be dragged into what he is facing. They kept telling him to enjoy school, and he finally managed a fake smile, reassuring them that he is doing fine. Miyuki, on the other hand, was the biggest loser of them all. She didn't just lose everything, but she even lost herself. She herself was sleepless and would constantly wonder if everything is just a dream. She was shocked to see that her life that she thought would work out was actually the opposite. She constantly thought how things could have been avoided if she were to visit a different place. And she was also aware that her childhood friend was being severely harassed and bullied to the point that the whole school enjoys it. Every time she would see him, she would start to cry, but would remind herself that she doesn't deserve to cry. It all started when she expressed how slow and steady their relationship was progressing, and Miyuki's best friend introduced her to her senior. Condo was a soccer ace and was all over the place. Miyuki was somewhat happy to hang around with such a popular guy, and soon she began to feel more comfortable around him, as his seductive talks and praises always blushed her. In the most unexpected way, they both kissed each other, as soon as they were at the stage of understanding each other. She even went all the way with him, and even offered herself to him. As she was guilty at first, he would always badmouth Eiji, and they two began to indulge in something disgusting. Both were enjoying themselves, not knowing that karma always gets back to the people who backstab. Before they were caught by Eiji, Miyuki somewhat still cared for their date that they were supposed to be together at, but Condo would always spew how he could just hang out with a different chick and throw her out. But after they were exposed by him, after a few days, Condo broke up with her and completely dumped her as well. The absolutely low-class Miyuki lost two of them and gained nothing out of this, and instead she thought that maybe Eiji would forgive her, but it turned out that Eiji became someone different, and she quietly kept her image intact and framed him as the criminal. As she lost the gem of a human, who cherished her and respected her with everything, she lost a man who would have held her hand all the way through life. As she cried and wept for what she did. On the other hand, the bullying got more severe and people would find every excuse to hurt him, and remind him that he is trash. As he entered the class, their board was covered by harsh words regarding him and people wrote how he is trash, and even revealed the location of his parents, so students would target them as well. As he looked at this, his world changed more aggressively. The only people he wanted to protect were about to be attacked by these mindless heathens. With pure hatred, Eiji dashes to the piece of garbage who planned all of this, and Eiji confronts him. Condo laughs and lets him know that it was fun to twist his life here and there, and mocked him for losing his girl and everything. This all was just a show for Condo, and he had more pleasure destroying his life than spending time with Miyuki. As he smirks, he reminds him that he loves ruining other people's lives. Poor Eiji collapses and falls down from all of this, and later wakes up in the nurse's office. As the nurse confronts him and leaves, Eiji had a lifeless face, and had the eyes of a man who gave up on living in this harsh world. He was sure that no matter how much he would beg, no one would come for his help. His teachers were blinded by the stories of their favorite students, and ignored the other side of the story. And his parents are about to face the humiliation from something that he never did. As he cried if anyone would even help, his club that he loved more than anything, decided to kick him out as well. Eiji starts to cry and tears overflowed as he didn't even get the chance to fight back. This all scared him too much that he became paranoid, and would cry why nothing he could do is enough. He makes his way to the top of the school, and as he climbed the stairs, he laughed how easy he thought enduring was. But the voices from the back hurt more than bullets, and gossips and rumors were poison that would sting all day. He sat there and remembers the things that he has been hearing for weeks and weeks. And nothing but cruelty of human was filled inside his ears. He wanted to be free and wanted to move on. He climbed the most dangerous stairway of the entire school. Finally he opens the door and was ready to be at ease for once and for all. But there he saw a girl, who glances back at him. A beautiful girl looks at him with pure eyes and he looks back at her. Eiji had no idea that meeting this girl was the start of the revenge that he was not going to take. Rather, people around him will help to take, since he lost everything. Fate would gift him something better, and his life would turn out to be the best of the best. As Eiji stares at her for something, it looks a bit uncomfortable for her, and she asks him who he is and why he is staring at her so hard. With a slight stutter, he replies to her and tells her that he is a second-year student, and his name is Eiji. He starts to explain how he is there to actually skip classes and wanted to shelter here for some time. He reflects how he can't really say out loud that he wants to jump, and wants to do something unimaginable. As he averts his eyes, she mutters his name, and for some time she glances at him, and in the next instant, we get the introduction to our female protagonist, who lacks nothing. Aoi Ichiju stands there. Eiji explains how she is a prodigy that is often considered to be the best student to ever enroll in this school. She not only scored the highest in the entrance exam, her gentle persona and enchanting beauty really did make a big difference, and almost everyone in the school couldn't help but notice her. Just as she enrolled, people were already going crazy about her. However, behind her beauty also lies a viper. Ever since she enrolled, many boys tried their luck and confessed their feelings to her, but she rejected them so hard that it really did affect her image a bit. She lowers her head and mutters how he is here at the worst timing. With a weak and hopeless voice, he tells her that unfortunately, there are some bad rumors going on about him, and he would like to crash at this roof for the time being. He requests her to leave the roof. Although he made this request, deep down he was still pretty much motivated to do something horrible. However, she snaps and with an angry tone she calls out to him and tells him that since she was here before him, she should have all the right to be here, and no one can just send her off. As she tells him this, she adds and tells him to leave, since she is here for something important. He increases his voice, and since he was too desperate, he lets her know that she should leave and worry about the rumors that are circulating around the school. As he was angry, the girl, on the other hand, tells him that she is fully aware of all the rumors about him. And with a cold voice, she tells him that regardless of the rumors, he needs to leave and give her some private space. Her willpower was so strong that he finally understood that she was a different type of high-quality person. As he exclaims, she lets out a big sigh and explains how she is aware of the tags that he has gotten recently. She lets him know in a gentle voice that those are all just rumors and have no real evidence whatsoever. She breaks down how she has never seen him do anything wrong with her own eyes, and because of that, she can't just blame him for things that everyone else blames him about. As he hears these words, finally in the series, someone with a brain shows up. The sad part of society and life is that people will start to gossip and begin to believe in the things that they want to believe in. Although people just ignore the other side of the story, she adds how nowadays, people will blindly follow anyone and point their fingers without knowing anything. This is an old nature of humans that is deeply engraved in our DNA. With an absolutely sad voice, he asks if she believes him and if his voice matters as well. She replies like a mature person and reminds him that it is not about believing the reality or false information. It is about judging a person who is convicted on some crime that are all based on biased gossips and chatters. She exclaims that she hates the mindless gossip that people go on and on to make themselves feel better. For the past few weeks, the events that happened in his life shook him pretty hard, and he understood for the first time that in life we are always alone. But these mature words that she spewed to him just changed his life for some time. She lets out a cute, confident pose, and as the breeze blew and took away the cloud of darkness from his head, he smiles for the first time in weeks and lets her know that he is thankful for the words. Although this was just a regular encounter, when someone is at the brink of despair, just a few words can bring him closer to life and hope, and this happened in his life. She looks at him and tells him that he should not be thanking her, and in the first place, he is kind of gross. As he lets out a laugh and shares how it is hard for him to explain the things that he went through, he tells her that she should just know that he is thankful for her and her words. As they interacted, it suddenly started to pour, and as he flinched from the cold droplets, he tells her to find shelter right this instant, so she won't catch a cold later. But she just stands there and tells him to leave her alone, if he is done. He looks at her and asks why she would stand there in the rain, and she grinds her teeth and screams that he is so dense that he can't understand why she was here alone. As she shakes him off, it turns out that she was there for her own dark reason, and perhaps they both were there to do something unexplainable. As he asks just why would she say things like that, and she keeps repeating and tells him to move along already, and tells him in a sad and cracking voice that for someone like her, tomorrow will surely not exist. As the weight behind her words shakes the ground from his feet, she was there to do the same thing as Eiji. As she starts to walk near the broken fence, he calls out to her from the back and tells her to stop right this instant, but she on the other hand, was just done with everything and kept moving. As his chatter pissed her off, she screams at him and tells him to just get lost already, and shouts in a clear voice that she is there to end everything. He quickly grabs her arm and pulls her near, and both of them started to pull each other. The fence that she was near was very weak, and just one step near it, it would collapse. As he pulls her closer to him, she ends up tripping, and both of them fall down near the side. She pushes him away and insults him, and adds how he is obsessed with touching and grabbing people. With a broken voice, she asks just why did he save her, and he warns her to not take another step. He reminds her that the old fence is rusty, and could have broken as soon as she would lean on it. As his tone was firm, he forgot the real reason he came on the roof as well. She mutters how it is sometimes a waste to help someone, and he tells her that if she is going to die soon, she should at least spend a day with him. As he lets out a request that little kids would make, she couldn't believe that he really came up with that. She confronts him and asks if he even knows what she was about to do here. And he replies that he was here for the same reason and that was why he was pushing her off earlier. He tells her in a gentle voice that he had no idea that he would go all the way to save a cute junior of his. As she hears these words, she couldn't help but heal her own pain. As the rain fell harder than ever, she lets out a beautiful smile and lets him know that living is hard and more painful than anyone can ever imagine. As he realizes that she is fine for the time being, they both couldn't help but smile at each other. As the rain stops, he gets up and asks her to find shelter, and as they leave the roof, a new chapter in their lives begin. He offers her something and brings out a handkerchief of his and lets her know she could use this to dry herself off. She hesitates for a minute, and then he insists, and she gives in. However, he was staring at her a bit too much, and she points out that he should seriously stop looking at her so much. As he still glances over to her, we see that he is still a man of culture and perfectly captures everything before getting caught. She tells him that the way he has been glaring at her, despite her warning, could count as sexual harassment. As he reflects how this could end everything for him, he looks away, and she mutters how all the boys are the same. She smiles at him and asks if he has a plan or something, and since he invited her to skip classes, surely he has something that they could do now. As he hears this, he reminds her that he said those words out of desperation, and in the first place, he had nothing to say to her at that moment. As he laughs, he shares how this sentence would be something that a delinquent would say to a girl. As this joke actually makes her laugh out loud, she lets out a bright and beautiful smile, and as he looks at her, he finally reflects how he has gotten to see her laugh for the first time. He remembers how his classmates said different things about her, and in the first place, she herself has rumors about her. Although she is well known for rejecting boys, she also did that in a cruel way. She would respond to the feelings of other boys by stating the most usual thing and telling them how she thinks that it is crazy to date someone you never know, and even pointed out how most of the boys were just there for her appearance and everything. As he reflects how the things that people say about others are sometimes completely wrong. After some time, she brings out his handkerchief and thanks him. He takes it back, and her stomach lets out an atomic-level alarm. Poor Prodigy was very hungry. He starts to look around in his bag and brings out a rice ball for her, and tells her that he would like to share this with her. Without any words or pause, she grabs it and bites into it. As her taste buds meet with the tuna that was cooked to perfection, she smiles and exclaims how this is just too good. The rice ball was made with tuna and mayo, and this combination was very unique and delicious. It was so good that she starts to mutter about the ins and outs of it. Reflecting what she was about to do, she tells him how it would have been a waste to die without tasting this. This was truly the best rice ball that she ate. He laughs and explains how this is actually popular, and how there are more varieties of rice balls that she can try. He lets her know in a gentle voice that he was glad to have her around to try these. As these words touch her, something truly blossomed within her, and she was just too fixated on the rice ball. She clenches her fists and exclaims that she would like to try more of these rice balls. He pauses for a minute and tells her that to taste more, she would have to come to his place. Now she flinches and blushes like crazy, but both agree. And as they walk near the main gate, it was locked. Aoi was scared and didn't know just how they would go out, and in the first place, they had no plan to leave this school, but now they were too pumped up to reach back home. She asks if there is any other way. She thought about jumping over but added how she is wearing a skirt, and he tells her that there is no other way and she would have to climb over the main gate. She shouts at him and reminds him that she is wearing a skirt and would never do the jump. As he started to tease her, he shares how they would use a different door. This door was only used by people who needed to leave, and it could only be opened from inside, and from outside, it was unmovable. She asks just how he knows all of this, and he shakes her off. He knew that a top student doesn't have a clue about hidden things about school. As he grabs her hand, he was more than excited to take her home. However, in the next second, he realizes that he grabbed her hand a little too hard, and she points out how they just met, and he is already holding hands with her. She shares how this is not comfortable for her, and how if this was a movie, the actor would play it out as something normal. But for her, this is a bit too much. As she switches into princess mode, she shouts and lets him know that she has never held the hand of a boy and he should feel grateful. He blushes and asks just why his heart won't stop racing. He grabs out to her, and they run. As the security guard from the side shouts at them, they both laugh, and there, they leave their pain and pass behind to move forward, and Eiji finally found the person who would move forward with him in life. Aoi was still not understanding just why she felt so comfortable around him, even as he grabbed her hand. She somehow felt at ease. Being a top idol in the school came with a lot of attention, and cheesy pick-up lines from boys were all around her, so much so that she became tired of their useless nonsense. When someone keeps hearing the same lies over and over, it creates an atmosphere that just makes a person want to run away, and this was what happened to Aoi here. As she clenched her hand tightly, she reflected on how Eiji was different. As she blushed a little, she finally met someone who made her heart flutter. As they ran on the other side, we got a gut-wrenching introduction to the certified trash, Condo. He introduced himself as the man in the center of this world, the great and mighty one. From day one, he was blessed with looks and influence, all thanks to his father, who made him a spoiled brat. His father was a city councilman with power in his hand at all times. Right off the bat, he studied in the top universities and had nothing to hold him back. When he was in a soccer club, he realized he had a talent for it and easily breezed past the competition, making it to the national teams. Just as life couldn't get any more fun, he was scouted by big leagues, and he had obviously already signed all sorts of deals with them. This was just the basic level of things. With his tall height and good looks, since elementary school he was surrounded by girls of all ages and types. He was so popular that he had a girlfriend for each day of the week. One day he ended up seeing something that just made him flutter. On his way, he saw a nobody dating another popular amateur idol. Seeing this, he was just driven by lust, excitement, and the thrill of destroying things. He remembered hearing that these two had talked of marrying each other in the future. Just being there, he knew how he would make his way into her underwear in the fastest and most disgusting way. After just a few days of hanging around with her, he already had her wrapped around his finger. It got to the point that she would first joke about her boyfriend, but slowly, she started to badmouth him just like Eiji's ex did. Now, Trash Condo saw that she was already making herself a victim of dating a nobody otaku who was obsessed with anime, and he mocked them both. He recorded her words while enjoying his time with her, and then played it for her boyfriend. When he saw the reaction on that poor guy's face, he was pleased to see that he had destroyed something so pure in a matter of hours. That poor soul also cried like a broken man and asked just why she would betray him. Seeing his tears, helplessness, misery, and unfortunate situation, Condo was aroused, and the sheer scale of pleasure he got from it was so strong that he knew he could never feel this way even if he slept with 100 girls. Her girlfriend immediately started to act arrogantly, and she dumped her boyfriend like he was a stone in her path. Now, Condo was obviously just having fun, and soon her attitude began to bore him. He told himself that he found it more pleasing when he stole other people's love for himself. That girl began to invite him over to her place more often, and God knows what they did. Slowly, her grades began to fall drastically, and she soon became the topic of conversation for the whole school. Kondo's basic mission was to destroy relationships, have his way with women, and then abandon them with mental problems. As always, he dumped that cheater as well. She cried just like Miyuki, but her tears and body were just already boring to him. He brought out his phone and began to text another girl, telling her that her nagging and voice already made her a loose woman and that he hated her type of women. Now, this was the regular thing that he would do: find a beautiful, innocent girl in a relationship, spoil her and enjoy everything, and then dump her into the trash. Obviously, this was not just simple, as the girls who go through his relationships end up being bullied and harassed by his followers and other classmates. This was his beginning and end, and as he watched their fall, it made him feel like the bigger man. He grew when others fell. As time passed, his next target was Miyuki, and as he did all sorts of things with her, it was now time to destroy Eiji's life. Before the rumors, Condo grabbed onto her hand, and it seemed like she had big bruises on her wrist, and he took some clever pictures and immediately began spreading them all over the school. As she herself played this all like a victim, it made the story even more believable. He immediately posted it on social media, and that post ended up being viewed by the whole school. As he smirked, he wondered just how far Eiji would fall. On the other side, our beautiful, disgusting Miyuki was already shivering from realizing that her affair had already spread everything on the internet, and he ignored her words. She also pointed out that some people were erasing the mean and hurtful things they wrote on his desk. Since everyone knew that Eiji wasn't back after going to the roof, the allies had thought that maybe he did something terrible, and that was why they were erasing their words. Her stupid brain was wondering if he would quit school because of her. We also saw her brave action when Condo began to spread the lies, and during everything she was comforting herself that she did nothing wrong and didn't know anything. As she glanced to the side, she ended up seeing Eiji's head, and for a minute her world brightened up, since this was her piggy bank in the future. As she called out to his name, she also saw that he was holding hands with another girl. As she saw this, in the next second, all imagination, wondering, and realization ended, and one word circled around her tiny brain. Miyuki just saw the act of mercy from fate, and as her eyes widened, she just couldn't hold back her regret and helplessness. As she went crazy from seeing another girl beside him, she began to tear up and shout at Aoi for being a homewrecker. The greatest teacher ever, Takayangi, let out a big sigh of relief after seeing that Eiji was running around fine and had stepped down from the roof. Takayangi is the homeroom teacher of their class. Just a few minutes ago, he saw Eiji's desk covered with the erased markings of hurtful words, and he decided to take a closer look. As he called for attendance, he called out to his name, and sure enough, there were words written for him. He knew that his student was suffering, and he asked everyone about the whereabouts of Eiji, but all of his stupid classmates made up things and mentioned that he was in the nurse's office. He told his class to line up for the gym, and told them that he would check up on him. As he walked outside, he remembered that Miyuki was very close to him, and as he glanced at her, she was sweating heavily, and it seemed like she saw something so terrifying that her soul was crushed. He slid the door, and from the side, another teacher approached him. The nurse's teacher from earlier greeted him and shared that Eiji was nowhere to be found. She let him know that it had been a while since he was out, and as he realized that something worse must have happened, she told him that she would search the school, but he replied to her and told her that he would visit the vice principal's office. He obviously informed another person, and as he sweated, he told Takayangi to ask his whole class about this. In the class, his entire mood changed, and with a cold voice, he asked all his stupid students if they knew the meaning of property damage. They all began to mutter, and he pointed out to the marked desk and let everyone know that he didn't know who did this. Seeing the words, he let them know that even an adolescent could guess if it was a prank or bullying. He reminded them that the school desks were school property and that public property paid for by their parents' taxes was important, and since some smart-ass kids damaged that, he let everyone know that damaging others' property is a crime. With a firm voice, he let everyone know that writing slander to make someone feel bad is not an easy thing to process, endure, and later suffer the consequences of. As the pathetic bullies panicked just a little, the teacher let them know that recently, people who harass celebrity get arrested, and if they think that they are students, he added that they would get the piece of the pie that they were wishing for. With an angry voice, he told everyone that since the whole class was involved in bullying, this thing would not be brushed away as pranks or jokes. He told everyone that he would remember this and consider this a proper crime against another human with feelings and emotions. After giving a very ruthless warning to all the bullies, in the emergency staff meeting all the other teachers were worried to death. The principal and vice principal themselves came rushing to the office and were sweating heavily. Unlike other principals who are all arrogant and all, this time the principal lowers his head and cries out to the teachers that he is very sorry and thanks the teacher for contacting him immediately. Both reasonable men blamed themselves for failing to address such an important issue, and since bullying usually takes hundreds of lives every year, they both knew that if they allowed this sooner or later more cases will appear. He shares that as a teacher we must do the best job. Another person shares that since all of them have done a wonderful job at this, there are plenty of people trying to protect their reputation. This circle was filled with teachers with intelligence, and knew that bullying is not a joke at all. Another great teacher also called Eiji's mother over and over to confirm if he is really okay or not, and this was really enough to alert his mother as well. As the good teacher replies to their worry and shares how he went home, all of them let out a big sigh of relief. The principal with a determined voice and tone lets everyone know that they need to prioritize the safety of Eiji, and make sure that he is not threatened or forced to do anything to himself. As he commands the teachers to ready up and support him, all of them were geared up to do their jobs. Back to Condo the trash, a few of his friends come rushing and crying to him that there is trouble. They began to cry like little girls and share on how Takayanagi is on their ass and is thoroughly investigating the bullying case. They cried that they could seriously get into trouble, and it turned out Condo was wary of that teacher as well. He had thought that maybe he would cover this case up, and since it leads to Condo and his father, no one would dare to do anything against them. He ignored them and was sure that if things turned sour his father would just come in for the save and help him out. He replies to them and it turned out, the trash revealed his colors again. They cried to him and began to mutter that they did horrible things to Eiji on his command and he should at least look at them when talking, and with a cold voice he replies to them and asks if he ever told them to do the things that they did. Right there their little world changes. The idol they believed in just did a 180 flip to them and left them in the dirt. He began to share on how he just shared his miserable state and situation with them, and they spread the information on their own. The professional gaslighter was much smarter than ever. He perfectly cornered them and got out of the situation so easily that even the smartest brain could be fooled by his acting. He lets them both know that if they don't have any hard evidence against him, then they are finished from top to bottom. Just saying this, he reflects to himself that finally 2 more slaves are under his control. The cycle of trapping and destroying peaceful life is just in his blood. Outside, both Aoi and Eiji ran all the way to a nearby bench and they began to talk down on each other. She lets him know that even though she is pretty athletic, she still can't keep up with a man. As he teased her, she makes a pouted expression and lets him know that he shouldn't really keep teasing her a lot. As he smiled to himself, they walk back to their place, and Kitchen Ono was the name of the kitchen that Eiji's mother ran. He enters and greets his mother, and when he lowers his head, he began to introduce Aoi and the situation he was in. His mother smiled, knowing that something is definitely cooking, and as Aoi was hiding, we learn about Eiji's father, who passed away randomly at the age of 40. He was a very well-known chef and he saved a lot of money earlier on in life. He fell in love with Eiji's mother, and they both started a Western restaurant together. After his father passed away, Eiji's brother handled the cooking and everything else, and their mother handled the staffs and waitressing. She smiles at her son and lets him know that she would arrange a lunch for him, and slowly Aoi comes out of hiding, and when she did, her angelic introduction sends both of them into a realm of imagination. They kept staring at her, and his mother began to mutter to herself that she is just an angel. They both lean and began to make her feel welcome, and she leads them to a room. He sits down, and she leaves them both to themselves. As she sees the menu, there were many delicious items on the menu, and she just opened her eyes wide. He smiles, and after he places the order he returns and apologizes for letting her into a small place. She rejects his complaints, and shares about how this place is 10 times more refreshing and warmer than her cold house. As she points out about Eiji's family relationship, she began to share on how her family was also once warm. He kept looking at her face and knew that something was truly wrong. After the food came, she looks at it like a child, and they were just about to dig in. Eiji's mother ends up asking what type of tea she enjoys, and it turned out both of them were very knowledgeable about tea. And as they talked, his mother leaves them both to enjoy the food. For a minute they both just stay silent. With a perfectly synced clap they showed their thanks for the food and began to enjoy the food. After taking just one bite, Aoi was glad to see that the food was very good. Deep down, Eiji was pondering on how both of them were just about to do something terrible, but now they are feasting on food. She blushes and they both began to talk to each other about food and family. Eiji's father was a good food engineer, and he made it so well that every dish of his were filled with an even dosage of nutrition. For all his life Eiji was very proud of his father, and this moment today just made him even more amazed, knowing that his father left behind a decade-old legacy. Their talk continued, but it was slowly starting to take shape. She shares about how surely his father was a good man, and as they continue to eat, with a loud and cold voice she asks if a human like her even deserves to live. There was something that still was lurking around in the back of her head, and this made her even more hurt. She cried how she was agonized by everything, and when she made her way to the top of the roof, she was fearful and couldn't really decide on what to do. That day she mustered the utmost courage to jump, but it all failed when Eiji joined her. She shares on how he even risked his life to save a stranger that he never really met. Tears began to overflow, and with a cracking voice she shares on how his kindness and the things that are happening are all making her want to live more. He replies and shares how he really doesn't know what type of messed and dark situation she is in, but without any fail he lets her know that because of her he was able to save himself as well. As the glimmer was about to stay in her memory for the rest of her life, he smiles and tells her that he is very glad that she is alive and breathing. Sometime hearing these words could be enough, and this is what happened here. Both souls with scars so fresh and bloody were about to walk into light holding themselves together, and the karma has finally reached the room of the wrongdoers, evil minds, and the careless. After enjoying the meals, Eiji's mother was very quick to serve them the tea. And since Aoi was somewhat knowledgeable about tea, she brings Aoi a black tea with rose wine and dried strawberry. As she was blown away by this combo, His mother was a genuine fan of British tea and liked to drink smooth whiskey and gin. Eiji's mother was one of a kind, who was not fearful of anything. This flavor was perfect for their after-lunch party, and she ends up asking Aoi's preferred tea. As both of them immersed themselves in the talks of tea, Aoi loved to be there in his home. The aura and atmosphere that welcomed her really made her feel at home, and with a gentle voice Eiji's mother lets Aoi know that she would love to have a beautiful and intelligent daughter like Aoi. With this she also tells her to continue to be a friend of Eiji. She smiled, and unlike her previous nervous talks, this time she is excited and replies to her request with a confident tone. Both of them began to talk about other things. Eiji lets her know that he would take her to the station, but she lets him know that she could go back on her own and shares that if he decides to tag along, it could get uncomfortable for him. As she smiles after saying this, Eiji was sure that behind the smile there is another face. He questioned if it would be alright to just send her back home after what she was trying to do. He wanted to let her know that she could come back here whenever she would want, but he was scared that she could misunderstand his intentions. If he would say something like this, it could trigger her to think that maybe he is trying to slide his way or something. She takes a pause and with a hopeful expression she asks if they are friends already. He smiles and lets her know that they are friends, and their friendship started the day they both looked at each other. As she left with smiles and a cheerful expression, all of that disappears when she leaves the kitchen after saying goodbye and a black car approaches her. From the inside a man lets Aoi know that he is here to pick her up. Although the driver was looking at her with troubled and worried eyes, Aoi was about to be caged one more time. Our scene changes to the angelic so-called beauty, the heartbreaker, the queen of the school Miyuki. Earlier when she saw him leaving with a new girl, she was just blown away. She not only lost everything. She was also afraid that she could also lose the trust of Eiji's mother. So to become a loving girlfriend she came to their kitchen. The problem was that she was thinking that she could force Eiji to accept the fact that she cheated, and after apologizing maybe he could forgive her. She stands in front of the door, but this time she is just afraid for some reason. She couldn't enter like she used to do. When she began to hear a voice from the inside, she was sure that someone was about to leave and she quickly hid. From the kitchen Aoi walks out all smiling and thanking Eiji's mother for the food. Seeing this she hides like a coward filled with guilt and regret, and in her mind she was going crazy. She calls Aoi a thieving cat, and when she noticed her facial features, she realizes that this girl was none other than the cold beauty of the entire school, Aoi. She asks how could a boring man like Eiji get an idol to visit his place. Since the status and personality that she had in school framed her as an unapproachable queen, her perfect scores made her the best student in the school as well. She was also very famous for rejecting dozens of boys in a day, but when she looks at her face, she noticed that her face was filled with happiness, and it was like a face of a girl in love. Her cunning brain quickly made her realize that she must have started to develop feelings for Eiji. Her body just started to boil from rage. She couldn't bear the thought that her childhood friend with whom she spent a decade of her life was about to be taken away by a girl who met him a day ago. Why was the only word that kept going on inside her mind. She was filled with agony and stress, thinking that this is not going to happen. For her Eiji was a pure and perfect man, who she could get easily even after getting hooked to another man. Ever since Condo left her, Miyuki was just going crazy to get back to the warmth of Eiji. She started to bite into her nails and started to mutter the same words over and over again, telling herself that her love is about to be taken away by a slug. She knew that she couldn't win, so after she left, she quickly decided to sneak in and meet Eiji in secret. Her plan was perfect. She could quietly go to him and beg him and maybe try to seduce him with her body. She quickly readied herself and made sure that she was attractive enough to make him stop, and when she quietly was about to open the door creaks open and a figure was there. Eiji's mother was standing there, and when she saw her face, they both just glared at each other. Miyuki's heart started to race. Her plan that she crafted was about to fail. But her mother with a friendly tone asked why was she here and hiding earlier in a place like this. She was smiling, but she noticed that her eyes were still and there was pitch-black hatred for her. She panicked and pondered if Eiji had told her mother about everything, and this was about to really destroy her plan. She decided to play innocent, and with a confident tone she greets his mother. She tried her very best to make her believe that she was here to meet him like they usually do. His mother's glare was enough to make her nervous, and she asks her in a cold voice how can she help her. Hearing this, Miyuki's eyes widened, since normally his mother would quickly let her know that she would call her boyfriend, but this time she was still, not moving an inch, and glaring at her. Miyuki begins to ask about Eiji, and she interrupts her and lets her know that he is here and what can she do for her. She gets a cold answer in no time, and there was no delay or anything. This thing was just very serious, and she began to sweat heavily. His mother lets her know that even though she is a parent, and has no right to intertwine with their relationship, she can't let her inside. His mother was not letting her enter the place she visited thousands of times. She was worried, and with a dead voice his mother lets her know that she should ask herself on how she found about her disgusting adult affair with someone that wasn't Eiji. She lets her know that she found about her relationship with that man before Eiji found out. Those words started to cut her heart with a sharp knife, and she froze there and looked like a complete idiot. Words like affair kept circling in her mind, and she began to fumble with her words. All her dreams of a happy married life with Eiji started to get drained, and his mother shares on how she was having tea at a gathering, and there she ended up seeing her holding another man's hand with smiles all over her face. Now she was hearing these things from a person who could be almost considered her second mother, and this time her words were very cruel, and Miyuki breaks down. His mother continued and shared on how it is legally allowed to free fall in love with others. She reminds her that she is a student, and this time she decided to hurt her son by cheating on him with a classmate of Eiji. She adds about how at first she had thought that maybe things weren't like this, but soon Eiji became very quiet, and this made her sure that both Eiji and Miyuki must have decided to part ways. Miyuki's whole body started to sweat, and her so-called lifeline was about to be torn apart, and karma was getting served. She also lets her know how she came to find out everything. On the day of Eiji's birthday he prepared all day long to get ready, and when he left, he quickly came back with a depressed look on his face, and this was enough to confirm the fact that Miyuki cheated on him very hard. Tears began to form in Miyuki's eyes, and she knew that she could never fool an old woman with years of experience in everything. She started to say some random garbage, but Eiji's mother interrupts her again and says to her that although she has no right to really meddle in with their business, and she could really have something to say, she lets her know that she should stop making stupid excuses. After getting embarrassed and served, she begins to apologize like a low-life, and she lowers her head in shame. Her mother puts some sense into her thick and stupid head and explains to her about how she failed to realize and protect a connection with not just Eiji but with his mother and this kitchen. Basically, she lets her know that she didn't just betray Eiji, she broke the trust of everyone. Since they respected her a lot before, now she is just a person who could betray a commitment anytime. Her mother tells her that love is free and no one has the right to trample on anyone's feelings. If someone does that, it is worse than a psychological damage, it is a crime. As she heard more of these words, she stood there like a broken soul, and the people who loved her finally cut ties with her. She persisted one more time and begged her to let her meet Eiji, but this time, she shouts at Miyuki and asks what kind of mother would she be if she would let an unfaithful woman near her son. She asks how she could do this to her precious son, and she tells her to get out of her sight. With a cold reminder, she gets a reality check when her mother shares to her that the kind of woman like Miyuki is not worthy of her son. Tears covered her whole face, and she sobbed right there after hearing these words from her supposed future mother-in-law. Eiji's mother interrupts her again, and this time she tells her to cry somewhere else, and with a cold and heartless expression she tells that homewrecker that her sobbing is interrupting their business. She kicks her out, and tells her goodbye, after which she shuts the door to her ugly face. As this just sends her begging for forgiveness, the first phase of revenge was delivered with a bang, and what was about to follow could never prepare her. She falls on the concrete and cried for some time. After that she just walked home. She dragged her feet, and she confesses on how she didn't really felt pain in her knees even though they were bruised. She opens the door to her home, and inside her mother greets her. She was back from her night shift, and deep down Miyuki didn't really want to meet her mother right now. She quietly mutters her greeting and Miyuki's mother gives her the usual smile. She began to ask Miyuki about the things that happened, and with a sharp pain in her heart she lies to her mother, and lets her know that she was with Eiji. This homewrecker was scared to death that her mother could get a hint, and despite being filled with shame and guilt, she lies to her. Her mother, an innocent woman, smiles and begins to share how they are a young couple and should enjoy their youth to the fullest, but these words pierce her heart. Her mother was thinking very highly of her daughter. She agrees to her mother, and gives her a fake smile. Last year when Eiji confessed his feelings to her, she was so happy that she imagined everything with him. The next year they did all the things together, from skipping school to eating together. They started to work part-time to earn a little bit of money to buy each other presents. As these things began to press her down into the abyss of shame, she says her goodbyes and she heads to her bed. She was sad, and above all she knew what she had done. Not only did she betray Eiji, she did that to Eiji's mother, and her own mother as well. She ended their relationships as well. She locks the door and collapses on the bed. She began to cry on the top of her lungs, but she covered her mouth to not make a commotion. Filled with sadness and self-hatred, she injures her nails from clenching it too hard in pain. Her mind kept asking her about her trust and loyalty, and when her mind started to fill with despair, she couldn't really do anything. Her affair, whom she had thought was the perfect, enjoyed her and then threw her away. Not only that, her childhood friend had completely moved on with his life and already began to stand on his feet. Words kept curling around her head, and she just couldn't hold back tears, pain and misery. She hates her own self and wanted to run away. With trembling hands she does what she should have never done. She turns on her phone and she begins to message Condo one more time. And this time she begs him to not leave her. In a seductive tone she messages him that she wants to meet him, and she is ready. She now wants to be fully labeled as the worst of worst. Since she can't cling on to Eiji or his family, she could now only cling on to the man she knows too well. She lets him know that since she is the worst, then she can be the worst. There was no stopping her lust. She began to imagine him, and cried out that in her desperation only embracing could help her now. To finally say goodbye to Eiji, she hugs the last picture they had, and she hugs it tightly. She wished that she could tear everything away and throw it, but she was still not able to tear their last picture. Eiji finally decided to go back to school, this time with confidence, knowing that he did nothing. Now Eiji had no idea that Miyuki visited him and wanted to meet him, but he was inside his own world. Thanks to Aoi, his mental state was somewhat normal, but there was still some problem lingering. Loneliness and fear would sneak in and haunt him. The idea that one day, everyone around him starts to taunt, harass and bully him, still gave him nightmares. The bullying at his school was getting so much out of hand that he was the only person in school suffering the most. Most knew him, and just ignored him. Most wanted to join in with the cause to make him quit the school, and others were just there to have fun. Mentally he was getting concerned, and since isolation is pretty much the school's fault, he could do nothing. Every day his desk was filled with ruthless and absolute inhuman scribbles filled with so much malice. His shoebox was always filled in with blades, so if he would approach it without knowing he would get severed nerves in an instant. He wanted to cry and call out to everyone, but no matter what he could think he could do, really he had no one by his side, until a junior of his came. Due to the past things, he has become sleepless, but definitely today he felt at ease and was much more relaxed. As he slowly let go of all the pain, his phone began to ring, and immediately he knew that this could be another mental attack for him. This time he was ready to delete all his personal accounts from the social media, and since blocking has not been helping him, he checks the phone and was about to go through the options, and in the messages there was not an alert for despair, rather it was a glimmer of hope. His eyes widens, a text message asks him if he is doing alright. There was no other words beside this, and when he sees the profile of this account, he suddenly gets a flashback, and this message was from his dear best friend, Satoshi. He also knew him for more than 10 years, and since elementary school they were inseparable. Due to some reason they had to move away from each other. As he replied, Satoshi lets him know that they need to meet each other at their usual restaurant. His messages were incredibly short, and there were no changes in the format. The messages were the same as he did before this severe bullying incident. Eiji agrees to meet, and this time he was more than happy to finally realize that he is perhaps not alone after all. He was glad that there were still some people who treated him the same. The next day, he calls to him and they find seating at a cheap family restaurant. Now the timing of this was odd, and since he was usually busy with his club activities, he skipped them all just to meet Eiji. Now Satoshi is kind of a big deal in terms of school. He is tall, a role model for his class. He is also the ace of a traditional archer club and a very talented guy. Eiji lets him know that he came here fast, and with a voice he lets Eiji know that, since the situation was serious, and was regarding his best friend, he skipped everything to be here. He considers his friend to be way more important than his club activities, and when he sat down with him, he immediately lowers his head and began to apologize to Eiji for not coming in to help him when he needed him the most. He shouts and lets him know that he is not fit to be called his friend. Today Satoshi was a bit emotional, which was different from his usual aura. He shares on how he stumbled across the horrible news going on with him, and since they were not in the same classes he didn't notice until now. He apologizes again, and this time the words that Satoshi added were just full of real concern. Seeing this, Eiji with a weak voice asks if he believes that he is not a monster of a human. He pauses for a minute and explains on how there were a few amateur articles coming out about him, and from one look, he shouts to him that he knew that he wasn't someone like this. He shares that there is never a possibility for Eiji to hurt a woman. His eyes widen, and Satoshi added on how he tried to find him all around the school, but when he asked a few students they shared that he was gone and left early. Satoshi was filled with so much anger that he made his way to Eiji's homeroom teacher Takayanagi, and Satoshi wanted to beat the living crap out of him for allowing such a bullying to happen at this massive scale where articles and the whole school was indulging in. He had thought that the teacher had abandoned or is covering up everything for the bullies. Hearing this, Eiji didn't really realize Satoshi's actions and pondered on if he was even afraid to be kicked out of the school, if he were to beat a teacher because of him. Eiji asks Satoshi about what happened next, and he shares that the teacher, to his surprise, was not a stupid fellow, rather he was serious about eradicating bullying. Both Satoshi and Takayanagi were disgusted about the bully, and Satoshi began to recite the words of his teacher. He lets Eiji know that both Satoshi and him are with him, and his teacher specially lets him know that even though this may be scary, but Eiji has all the rights to count on us adults. He adds that I will take full responsibility of all these acts and solve this case with a plan. As Eiji hears these things, it was almost as if Takayanagi was saying this himself, and he ends everything by letting Eiji know that he can trust the teachers. When he heard these words, Eiji began to tear up, and the ice and pain that surrounded him slowly began to go away. That day, Eiji with some confidence tells Satoshi that he would try to go to the school. And once the fateful morning came, and although he said that he would go, he was still fearful. Anything could really happen in the school, and if the cycle of bullying would continue, in all honesty he would have no way to do anything. He wondered if he is still going viral on the internet, and with a heavy heart he readies himself to march ahead. He forces himself to eat the toast, but his stomach was feeling terrible from all the stress and nervousness. He bids his mother goodbye, and when he walked outside, the sun shone brightly, and ahead of him he saw a figure of a woman. Instantly, he had thought that maybe Miyuki still persisted and came here, but when he checked, it was an angel. Aoi was standing there in front of his house with a calm face, the one and only irreplaceable girl from school. The things that happened to Miyuki yesterday would definitely haunt her, and she would never ever dare to come here again trying to make her way again. As he sees Aoi there, he quietly goes back and closes the door to her. When he shut the door, from the outside Aoi goes crazy and begins to shout at him for leaving her outside. She screams that he didn't even care for her greeting. Now Eiji didn't himself know why he closed the door, but from the back his mother immediately recognizes her voice, and she shakes him to stop hiding and meet the girl who has been waiting for him. When they opened the door again, both his mother and he greeted Aoi, and his mother began to shower offers on Aoi. It was clear that Eiji's mother really loved Aoi from the bottom of her heart, and there was no chance in hell that this would change. She offered Aoi some food, and with a concerned tone Aoi lets her know that she herself feels very bad to eat here for free, and Eiji on the other hand kept looking at them and was sure that both of them have a wonderful chemistry, and he didn't even had to do anything. After they two reunite and are sent off to the school, they walk down the street and students began to come into view. This time Aoi was with him, and it really helped him overcome the anxiety and cycle of depression. He was at ease, and with a weak voice he asks her if she is okay to even walk together with him to the school, and if the students end up bullying her, Eiji cries to her that he can never really stop them. She laughs it off like a champion and replies that she is already popular, and there is no way that it would turn out that way. Although Aoi was ruthless in rejecting boys, she was still a role model for the school, and no one ever heard any bad rumors about her. The words of her rejection were true, but she had a great way to turn those boys down in which they wouldn't feel bad. Her reputation was top-notch, and all the rejected boys always came to an agreement and never held any grudges. She breaks the ice after a few seconds and lets him know that Eiji could really benefit from this, as if a popular role model like her would stick around him like this, the bad rumors about him could slowly wither away into dust. As they walked past a few students, they were shocked. Most of the guys were just speechless, wondering to themselves if the Ice Queen was hanging out with a woman abuser. They muttered and gossiped, thinking whether he forced the Ice Queen into his trap or something. Well, these were the talks, but on her face was a big, wide smile that truly reflected a totally different picture, and many were starting to feel that difference as well. She looks at him and lets him know that she truly hopes that his bad reputation is flipped today, and with a nervous tone he replies, telling her that he doesn't really want to take advantage of her reputation and then benefit himself. Now their sweet talks were filled with deep respect for each other, and she didn't care what the stupid world and students were thinking of them going to school together like normal humans. She weighs his debts, and with a confident tone she lets him know that she doesn't care if her image is ruined while walking with him. He smiled, and deep down he was bursting in joy and wanted to cry very bad, but this time the tears would be full of happiness, knowing that he has someone irreplaceable with him. She teases him and lets him know that it is not a time to cry. They quietly walked off, and Eiji shares that thanks to his friend Satoshi he had the courage to go to school, thanks to Aoi he wants to face the slanders with confidence, and with a hopeful voice he reminds himself that he was on the verge of distrusting people. Now he knows that there are still people he can wholeheartedly trust. That day they were the center of attention, and many students even began to take pictures of them together, and they were truly the unique pair. This pair had a top beauty lacking nothing, coming from a great family background with grades, skills and attitude to match, and on the other hand was a disgusting woman abuser, who mistreated his previous girlfriend on multiple occasions. Now, since a personality and background of a person really matters, it was definitely working in reverse. Aoi was in everyone's eyes, and they were mixed reactions from every side. Nonetheless, Aoi was enjoying every second of this for some reason. As they were walking, she glances at him and asks if they are walking back home together as well, and Eiji is now wondering if she is purposely trying to improve his image by this method, and while he appreciates it, he asks if this could bother her, and she shouts at him that she is the one who asked him for this. As they both agreed, a true pair was slowly learning and opening up into each other. They both parted ways, and now the real battle will start. Soon some of the students will start talking down on Eiji, and then the cycle of bullying will happen. He was ready to face the pain, and most of his bullying starts from the shoe locker. This is also the place where he finally understands how much he would get bullied today, but when he opens the locker, to his surprise it was clean as new. There were no signs, no stickers or scribbles of any type. He looked around and saw the dean of all teachers EY, and he was there to make sure no students would be late under his watch. Although Eiji had thought of this, the real reason the dean was there because the teachers were strongly against bullying, and the dean was guarding the shoe locker the whole time, and made sure that no one messed around. He greets Eiji with a friendly tone, and he shares on how teacher Takayanagi has been waiting for him and was also pretty worried since yesterday. Eiji still was in disbelief that maybe they wanted to confront him for ditching the classes or something, and despite everything he shakes his head, and this was enough to put a smile on the teachers' faces. Eiji goes down to meet the man himself, Takayanagi. Now he hated this place since here the glares of the students were very intense, so much so that it made him breathless. But when he steps down from the last stair, from the side, the man himself Takayanagi greets him with his usual depressing tone. When he saw him outside, it was truly a rare occasion, and he mutters a greeting and asks why was the teacher outside. Now the man tells him that considering the terrible things Eiji had gone through, he waited for him to show up so they could go into the staff room together, and in this way he could not feel uncomfortable from going there. The level of details that Takayanagi was going into was beyond normal standard, and he was really going to change this school. All Eiji could do here was thank him, and when he did, Takayanagi shares that today he is here to listen to all the story and things he went through, and in this way, he can go to the depths of this matter. He proposes that they should use the best room in the school. He kept making him feel like a king or something, and Takayanagi was right there ready to do anything for him. As they came to a conclusion, they chose the conference room and they both sat down, and they began the most important phase of identifying the real story. Unlike other teachers who just became hot-headed and focused on Miyuki's made-up story, this teacher was actually doing everything to prevent the existence of the idea of bullying and misuse of information. Before they could start, Takayanagi lowers his head a lot, and with a concerned tone he lets him know that he is sorry for everything, and since the bullying and terrible experience that he went through happened in his class, then he is truly to blame for it all. He lets him know that he can't ease the previous suffering, but now he would like to go through this. When he did this, immediately Eiji stands up and begged him to not lower his head like this, and he praises on how quickly he caught the problem. He lifts his head and thanks Eiji and began to add on how he ended up finding about his situation from someone else, and he lets him know that he is here to hear everything from start to the end. Now, although this was a perfect opportunity for him, thoughts began to surround him, and he still didn't trust him. He thought that if the teacher ends up changing sides, then Eiji would forever be labeled as a snitch for the school, and although his image and school life is over, this would only make more trouble, and on the top of everything, he was hesitant to share his tragic love life, which ended with his girlfriend sleeping on him with another man, and then labels him as the worst trash to the society. He couldn't bring the word to tell his teacher that he was about to jump because of everything which happened so quickly, and so aggrievedly. He was afraid that bullying was surely going to get worse after this. Now Takayanagi lets Eiji know that if he has been pushing him, then he is sorry. He agrees, and surely Eiji needs time, and with a friendly tone he asks if there is anything he would like. Since today was a special day for Eiji, Takayanagi proposes that he would buy him something to drink. As Eiji decides what to drink, the teacher was about to leave, and Eiji ends up asking if he would get in trouble for missing his first period, and he replies that the principal of the school is taking his classes. He lets Eiji know the fact that the whole teacher body is ready to defend his honor and help him through this. When he heard this, for a minute he froze, and he finally understands why the dean was earlier roaming around the shoe locker side. Without any delays, words like thank you kept flowing out, and Takayanagi kept muttering about how he hasn't brought him the drink yet. After some time, Takayanagi returns with 2 red cans in his hand, and they begin to sip the drink and talked random stuff. Takayanagi created such a perfect environment for Eiji there that he was sure that the man sitting in front of him was not a teacher, rather he was more like a brother. With a sharp tone he asks why would a teacher want to believe his side of the story, and after taking a very small pause the teacher replied that it is mainly because of 2 main reasons. He shares that in the recent world most of the results are influenced by irreversible rumors, and this creates a mass reaction. He shares that since the teachers are more mature than the students, they tend to take trends more objectively. Since someone is going viral on the internet, most eyes will start to consider him as a threat, and he is registered as a bad human in their psychology. Hearing this, Eiji mutters to him that this is exactly his situation. Eiji was still not sure, and he asks if he is truly a terrible person like everyone describes him, and with a confident voice he points to him, and lets him know that from one look at him, Eiji truly could never hurt anyone no matter how much trouble he was in. He lets him know that teachers have intuition, and for Eiji's case, he shares that students like him are timid and tend to take the blame rather than fight and repel. Hearing this, Eiji's fear of trusting vanished even more, and he kept looking at this teacher, who had depressing and boring-looking glasses, but every word of his was hitting him right in the center of the chest and moved the boulders that were weighing him down. He clenches his fist and cries to himself that he is ready. He cries that maybe Takayanagi is the person he was searching for, and with a determined voice he tells Takayanagi that he is ready. Once he made up his mind, Eiji shares that he was dating Miyuki, and Mr. Takayanagi began to connect a few dots on how many major terrible things start with romance. Eiji tells him on how both Miyuki and he were pretty much closer than ever, but when they planned a very special date together, he noticed that Miyuki began to dodge the dates again and again. Since she was already doing this for a while, Eiji shares that he never really doubted her honestly. Her usual behavior was very mysterious, and since she would leave important things with him and barely replied, he shares that when she missed that date, he was sad. He then decided to go to the place they were meant to go, and when he got there he found out that Miyuki was wearing a revealing outfit and had her arms wrapped around another man, and they were walking through the red light district. Hearing this, Takayanagi reflects on how this is truly a terrible start, and how it made him feel bad. Now, after hearing the story, Takayanagi begins to think, since that was the most logical thing to do. He knew that Condo was a pretty well defender, and since his father was a councilman he was always very well established. His grades weren't that bad, and on top of everything he was a soccer ace. There were many romantic scandals that went around about him, and the main problem in everything is that Condo is a cunning manipulator. He has his way around with the words and could easily take advantage of any girl with a few lines and a perfect situation. Now for Takayanagi and every normal human, cheating was the lowest of the low, and the most evil thing that a human can do to another. It is morally unacceptable, but in this case he could not really legally do anything, since cheating usually slides by if the person is not married. In this way alimony cannot be obtained. However, if a spouse has an affair, the alimony could be obtained through trial. Now, even though they were still young, he reflects that cheating is just an unforgivable act as human beings, and that is the basic premise. Now, last year a very heated exchange happened with one of the teachers and Condo. It was also related to a cheating and romantic case of some sort. There, Condo aggressively talked down on the teacher and told him not meddle a student's love life. Eiji then explained the moment he grabbed Miyuki's arm, and Condo then punched him across. Now, even though he didn't even use any force, Miyuki just made a small noise. The teacher kept hearing this and wrote down every detail, and he was sure that since Eiji was hurt, this was no longer a romantic problem, rather this is a violent incident. In the heat of exchanging other words, Takayanagi ended up asking who did Miyuki choose after this, and slowly Eiji broke down, and immediately Takayanagi knew that he asked a very difficult thing. As he replied, Takayanagi's soul was shaken for a minute. For all his 30 years he couldn't believe that someone would try to do this intentionally. Now, since he also explained how they started to call him a stalker, abuser and other things, these kinds of false and cowardly actions enraged Takayanagi, and with a weak voice he asks if it was hard. He thanks Eiji for sharing this pain and lets him know that it must have been hard and painful to be rejected, framed, betrayed, and then laughed on. Now Takayanagi analyzes everything and was sure that Eiji didn't really went to a hospital to get treated, and if he had gone, today they could have punished Condo, but since there is an absence of evidence it would really become a hard topic to fight on. There are a few options for Takayanagi, but all would lead him to finding more information. He looks at Eiji, and with a kind voice he lets him know that from here onwards it is the adult's job to handle the rest. Now their number one priority is the safety of Eiji, and after that is done, they can relax. If any of the teachers end up missing any details, the psychological trauma would be with Eiji for the rest of his days. Now even the principal made steps to assure that he would get education despite missing a few days from the classes, and unexpectedly Eiji lowers his head and apologizes for everything. Takayanagi couldn't believe that the whole school was worried to death for him, and he still has the grace to apologize here for causing the teacher troubles. Takayanagi replies to him in a manner of a mature human and reminds him that this is not annoying at all. Rather, he adds that this is not just his problem. This is a problem for teachers and the entire school. As he comforted him, he passes him a weird glare and both of them just look at each other. In the end, his teacher shares to him that to love someone in a pure sense is a wonderful thing, but if those feelings are trampled on, even a fully fledged adult's heart shatters to thousands of pieces. He lets him know that whenever you are in pain, you should also learn to lean and rely on someone else. On the other hand, when Aoi enters her class, the whole class starts to surround her. Yesterday she made an excuse to the teacher about being sick and perfectly made her way out, and as the students began to ask her about her health, she answers all of them, but all her replies just made the students happy. Aoi's plan is to live a simple life in school. Although she has looks, she tries to be kind to literally everyone, and since it is easy to make enemies here, her strategy somewhat has worked. In the class she wears a mask, and that is why she is kind to everyone, but deep down she is not. She performed that act and all the classmates had a reasonable distance between them. She recalls that she needs to continue and play this role of fake Aoi, and she reminds herself that no one in this world can know of her other side, the real side of her, which she was hiding and revealed only to Eiji. She reminds herself that only one special human knows about this secret and pain. The man she met yesterday, Eiji. To him she can easily reveal all her embarrassing parts, and with him she can really express herself. From her talks she began to wonder on how her heart feels at ease whenever she talks to him, and how she doesn't suffer when he calls her. Although they both are trying to do one thing for another, for her Eiji has somehow become a protection, and for the time being she can't help but wait to meet him one more time. As she thinks of this, from the back a girl calls her, and the class president approached her and asked her about something. The class president leans over to Aoi and begins to whisper to her like a dealer, and shared on how she saw her with the woman abuser, Eiji, this morning. As Aoi repeated his name, she makes a troubled expression and cries on how it could bring terrible luck just to say out his name, and Aoi begins to educate her stupid brain. They talk and talk. It turned out she was there to advertise the dangers of being with a man like Eiji. She began to push fear on her, and one more person joined, and Aoi got pissed from hearing such useless and groundless things, and she interrupts them, and with a bold tone she asks if they have ever talked or met Eiji themselves. All of them go quiet, and she began to corner them, and she lets them know that he saved her from a very dangerous spot, and he isn't anything like what they were imagining him to be. As she shuts them up, Aoi has started to kill the fire that was spread without any cause. She stood up for him, and soon the people around him are working to expose this horrible trap laid by a son of a politician who was in his own world. Kondo's life is just on the peak, and with a loud sigh he cries that life is boring. Earlier he ended up attending a friend's soccer match that he usually skips. Here he somehow ends up having a little tough time. And to balance his mindset, he took out his frustration on his teammates. He thinks of his teammates to be lower than him, and he considers them to be the reason for his slightly normal performance. Since he is the king of this team, every mistake from his team could destroy his potential. Now he is free from defense, and even the so-called coaches agree that Condo is great at offense, so whenever he loses the ball, Condo is so great of a player that he doesn't bother chasing it. He lets his little teammates handle that, and obviously if he starts to chase it, his legs would get tired on something boring like defending. In this way, he couldn't attack the ball in the great artistic way that he does. Truly a legend of soccer. His artistic passes makes him stand out, and this is one of his assists. When he dominates his so-called rivals, when they fall, ironically he ends up seeing Eiji's terrified face, which makes him wonder just how long will he still be able to continue school. He laughs on how his minions trashed his desk yesterday and made a few pictures viral, and this caused the entire school to make him the woman abuser of the school. This was just the best time for Condo, and it made his life serve a purpose, but better than this, he has another interesting thing happening to him. Miyuki has been going wild, and to escape the reality she has been fully turned into a woman who loves sex. Last night she boldly calls Condo and invites him to her place where her parents were not home. She danced all night, and they indulge in adult acts all night long. She made sure to entertain him through and through. She also started to say a few cliché things to him about both of them making a beautiful couple, and how Condo is all that she has. But all of that makes him laugh. He kept hugging her and asking for another round in between, but throughout this, he enjoyed her over and over, and he knew that Miyuki was desperately trying to make Condo fall for her. From her talk he cries on how she is sounding like a princess, and calling him a king. Her words were all about how she left her childhood friend for him, and how Condo and she should always be together. While moaning she would continue her rants and begged him to just not leave her, but Condo was just tired of her already. He enjoyed all her youth and now he wants another girl. This was actually the fetish of Condo. Whenever he would steal the girlfriend of someone for a few days, their faces and the connection he makes with their girlfriends makes him horny. He also likes to mentally hurl insults at the girls, and when they would cry this would make him even more horny and exalted. He is just one step closer to dumping Miyuki in a very hard way. The next morning, the boring soccer class that clearly he never needs, he gets free from it and returns to his class. As he sighs, a friend of his sneaks a picture and shows him a screen. When he looked, he exclaimed, there was a picture that normally no one would find out easily. It was a picture of Eiji and Aoi laughing at each other. They were together and were having a blast. As other guys near them laughed, they mentioned how a junior idol is okay with going out with a woman abuser. They were clearly laughing at the choice of Aoi, but when they left, Condo was humiliated. Condo for the past months constantly tried to ask Aoi out, but every time, she refused him harder and harder, and seeing a man he crushed with a girl he chose, he was humiliated and angry. He reminds himself that he is the kind of the school and surely he would not accept being a copy of a king. Later in the series, Condo's great skills at offense are tested and he gets a fat and juicy reality check. In the next part, Condo tries to run away from Miyuki after they were caught in a rather uncomfortable situation. As they get arrested, their world is starting to crumble harder than ever.